Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. If you're looking to cut through the noise and get straight to the mechanics of how money really works, you are in the exact right place. Today, we're navigating the financial landscape of debt and discipline. We're going to unpack the hidden meanings behind those financial terms we hear every single day, turning abstract jargon into clear, actionable understanding.
So let me ask you, do you actually know the real difference between good debt and bad debt? We're often taught from a very young age that all debt is inherently evil, something to be avoided at all costs. But what if I told you that wasn't the whole story? I want to challenge your current assumptions right out of the gate. Think of the concept of debt like a giant puzzle, and over the course of this explainer, we are going to solve it together piece by piece.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, good debt versus bad debt. Second, drowning in debt. Third, governments as role models. And finally, saving for a rainy day.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, good debt versus bad debt.
Before we get into the definitions, I want you to think about your own life or the lives of people around you. When has borrowing money felt like a really smart strategic move? And when has it felt, well, like a total trap? Having those real-world scenarios fresh in your mind will make the concepts we're about to cover stick so much better.
Let's start with the positive side of the equation, acquiring an asset. This is literally the foundational concept behind what financial experts call good debt. An asset is an item of value that can potentially grow your wealth over time. So you aren't just buying something, you're leveraging borrowed money to acquire an item whose value grows faster than the cost of the debt itself. You're intentionally taking on a liability to secure something that will ultimately make you richer. A prime example of this leverage is a mortgage. A mortgage is a specific type of loan used to purchase property or real estate. Yes, you are absolutely borrowing a massive sum of money, but you are exchanging it for real estate, an asset that historically has the potential to grow your wealth over time. The debt is completely tied to an appreciating vehicle, which makes it a highly strategic wealth-building tool rather than just a financial burden. Now, let's flip the coin and look at the exact opposite of an asset, an expense. An expense is simply a cost incurred. It represents money that just leaves your pocket. Take daycare, for example. It's incredibly important and a necessary cost for millions of families, right? But strictly from a cash flow perspective, it's a drain. The money goes out and it doesn't come back. When you borrow money to fund something that offers no financial return, you're inviting instability.
So the absolutely crucial difference here lies in utility. Good debt is tied to an asset, like a mortgage, working passively behind the scenes to build your future net worth. Bad debt is tied to an expense, like borrowing money to pay for daily consumer goods or fleeting services. Borrowing just to cover expenses traps you in a vicious cycle where you're constantly paying for the past instead of investing in your future.
Okay, let's move on to section 2, drowning in debt.
What do you think the expression drowning in debt actually means? Or more importantly, what does it physically feel like? You see, the language of finance isn't just dry numbers on a spreadsheet. It's full of incredibly vivid imagery. We use phrases like this because they capture the urgent real-world panic that financial jargon so often manages to hide. Drowning in debt. Just think about the heavy metaphorical weight of that phrase. It implies struggling to breathe, feeling totally overwhelmed by a rising tide you simply cannot control. It perfectly captures the deep, paralyzing stress associated with severe financial trouble. At this stage, it's no longer just a math problem, it's a full-blown survival scenario. But how does someone end up in that situation? Well, it usually starts by slowly racking up balances. To rack up means to accumulate or build up gradually. A credit card swipe here, a small personal loan there. It turns into deep water so quietly that you rarely even realize how deep you're getting until you're already struggling to touch the bottom. And the hidden multiplier making that water rise faster and faster, that's interest. Interest is the ongoing cost of borrowing money. When you're racking up bad debt, interest is this incredibly dangerous undercurrent. You aren't just paying back what you borrowed. You're paying a compounding premium just for the privilege of borrowing it. It relentlessly drains your cash flow. Eventually, all of that racking up and compounding interest lands you in the red. This phrase means being in debt and spending more than you earn. It actually comes from the old accounting practice of using red ink for negative balances. Today, it's a giant flashing warning sign illustrating the absolute danger zone of your personal finances. You are bleeding more money than you bring in. But there is a lifeline, paying it off. To pay off means to completely settle a debt or balance. And we aren't just talking about making minimum payments here. We're talking about an active, aggressive strategy to escape that compounding trap of bad debt. Attacking the principal balance is literally the only way to swim back to the surface and breathe again. Let's shift gears for Section 3, Governments as Role Models.
Have you ever wondered how a government could actually be a bad financial role model for its own citizens? Because, truth be told, the underlying math doesn't magically change just because you add a dozen zeros to the end of a spreadsheet. The principles of cash flow, leverage, and debt apply to nations just as ruthlessly as they apply to you and me.
A government becomes a bad financial role model when it exhibits the exact same behaviors that lead individuals to drown in debt. When entire nations continuously rack up immense national debts to fund passing expenses instead of building long-term infrastructure assets, they are operating in the red. It sends a really dangerous message about fiscal discipline, normalizing the idea that you can just keep spending more than you earn without any consequences.
Now let's tie it all together. Notice how all the concepts we've discussed group logically into distinct financial themes. Under building value, we have assets, mortgages, and paying off debt. Under financial strain, you see the realities of expenses, being in the red, interest, and racking up balances. And finally, future planning, which covers what we can afford in the long run. Seeing these puzzle pieces organized like this really cements how all these economic forces are connected.
That brings us to our final part today, Section 4, Saving for a Rainy Day.
So what does the expression, save for a rainy day, actually mean? Well, it is your ultimate proactive defense against the trap of bad debt. A rainy day just represents the unexpected stuff, a sudden job loss, a medical emergency, the car completely breaking down. Saving for it means strategically holding cash in reserve, specifically so you don't have to borrow and leverage your future when life inevitably happens today.
And that brings us to affordability. To afford something means having enough money to pay for it without financial strain. When you diligently save, you ensure that when an emergency strikes, you can handle it with liquid cash. You aren't just paying for an inconvenience, you are securing peace of mind. You bypass those high-interest credit cards entirely, completely avoiding the risk of falling into the red.
At the end of the day, financial discipline isn't about instant gratification. It's a compounding strategy for the long run. That means over an extended period of time into the future. Foregoing fleeting expenses, holding reserves for emergencies, and aggressively neutralizing bad debt, these are strategic moves that compound over time to secure your freedom and build real, enduring wealth.
So, I want to leave you with a question to ponder. Take a hard look at your own daily financial choices. Are you building assets for the long run, or are you just racking up expenses? The concepts we decoded today aren't just abstract terminology. They are a mirror reflecting our own habits. I really hope this explainer has given you the clarity to build a stronger, more resilient financial foundation. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll see you next time.